I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I have no idea how I'm going to be able to review this, but Jesus Christ. Let's give it a go. Hello everybody and welcome to my attempt at reviewing Charlton Athletics 2022-23 January transfer window. I kind of expected it, to be honest. I didn't kind of expected it. I did expect it. Regardless of what Andy Scott said, saying that, oh yeah, I've got a budget to work with. I wouldn't be coming here if there wasn't a budget to work with. And the other lads that have come in to solidify Charlie Miffin's takeover of the club, that now are out of contracts at the club and we don't know whether they're here or not. I expected it. I fully expected it. And we're now left with a squad that, in my opinion, is probably no better than what we had. What the hell happened in this transfer window? And I'm going to attempt to explain it all. So, without any further hesitation, people, let's get into it, shall we? So, before we get on to the absolute malarkey and bizarreness that happened on transfer deadline day, we'll begin with where the window actually kicked off. And our transfer dealings in January did kick off with a player departure, as we did confirm the exit of a player that we all knew was going to leave the club. He probably should have left in the summer. He had the chance to leave in the summer, but the deal fell through. And it finally went through, I think, a couple of days into the January transfer window. And that, of course, was midfielder Jake Forster-Caskey, who did complete his permanent move away from the club, signing for League Two Stevenage, linking up with current Charlton midfielder Alex Gilbey, who, of course, is on loan there until the end of the season. Of course, didn't get recalled this window either. He'll be seeing out his loan spell at Stevenage, which I'm not really against, to be honest with you. But yeah, in terms of Jake, I think we all saw it coming. I think it was probably the right time for him to leave. Obviously, from a sentimental value, it does hurt because he's been at the club for 6 years. And, I've grown up a lot of my time supporting Charlton. Jake has been here. And it is a shame to see him go, but I think entirely the right decision because sadly, injuries have killed him while he's been here. And I do hold the opinion that if Jake was fit consistently and he wasn't constantly getting injured, he would be playing at a championship level consistently, in my opinion. I do genuinely think that because he came to this club from Brighton, I think we signed him from. He made an impact, 2017-18, he was fantastic. Picks up his first ACL injury the season we get promoted. Struggled with injury the season after that in the Championship, despite some impressive performances out of position. If we remember him, Bowyer played him as a wing-back on occasion and played quite well. 2020-21, finally got back to full fitness and put in a seasonal performance worthy of a Player of the Year award. Picks up a second ACL injury to his other knee and never really recovered after that. And sadly, he's just been, since then, a player that's just been on the wage bill. And there's no doubt that he was one of the highest earning players at the club. So naturally, when he's not playing, the right thing to do is to move him on. And that's exactly what we've done. And he has stepped down to League Two. It is a shame to see him step down to that far down. You would think Forster-Caskey on paper, he shouldn't be playing at League Two level. But then again, it probably makes a lot of sense, considering he's been struggling with injury. So hopefully he can get regular football there, can kind of, well, not revive his career, but revive some form in him, and we'll probably see him next season because Stevenage do look likely to go up this season. They're definitely on form to do so. So yeah, wish Jake all the best at his time at Stevenage, and hopefully he can get some regular minutes under his belt. Following Jake's departure, we did make our first signings of the transfer window, and it was in the form of a double signing. We of course did confirm the signings of striker Macaulay Bonne making his return to the club, and the signing of Coventry City right-back Todd Kane on loan until the end of the season. Bonne, of course, joining on a short-term deal until the end of the season following his release from QPR. And Macaulay Bonne, there is a bit of pressure on his shoulders, obviously coming in on a short-term contract, and I do like that about the fact that we've brought him in on a short-term deal, because ultimately he does have to win the fans back. The fans, regardless of whether he says the post that he had on social media was aimed at Charlton or QPR, he still has to win the fans back. And the only way he's going to do that is if he scores goals. So I do like the fact we've not given him that security, and the fact that he has to earn the right to stay at this club. And so far, it's a bit early to judge. He's only played a couple of games, but I do hope that as the season progresses, he will bag a couple of goals and he can put in some performances that we can be proud of. Obviously, we could have done with another option. We could have signed someone permanently. We could have reinvested the money that we got from the number of players we've sold and invested it properly in a striker. But naturally, with Thomas Sandgaard being owner, it's not going to happen, is it? So we've just got to make do with what we've got, really. But yeah, Bonne, I like the fact we've not given him a long-term deal, sorry, and hopefully he can bag the goals in for the second half of the season. As for Todd Kane, bit of a weird one, considering that he comes into a position that we've already got covering. You know, we've already got two options there in Sean Clare, who's played really well this season, in my opinion, and Mandela Egbo, who too has looked impressive when he has played, but has been constantly struggling with injury. Now, the fact that we've signed Kane makes me think that Egbo's injury is a lot more long-term than we feared. And Kane has got himself injured already, and he's out for 6 weeks with a hamstring injury, which is just absolutely laughable and just typical Charlton, really. Plays 45 minutes against Barnsley. Didn't watch the game, so I can't make a comment on how well he played. I've heard a lot of mixed reception. Some people say he played really well. Some people saying he played terribly. But nevertheless, he came off, I think, at the end of the first half, and he's out for 6 weeks with a hamstring injury, which means he will be unavailable probably until at least the end of March, which is just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, she's probably going to play under 10 games for the club and isn't really going to make much of an impact. So this has already turned out to be an absolute failure of a signing, which pretty much just sums up our transfer window, really. But hopefully when he does come back from injury, he can put in some solid performances if he's given the chance to. But yeah, bit of a weird one, that one, and a very unfortunate start to his Charlton career and possible end to his Charlton career as well. Following those two signings, we did confirm another player departure, our second departure of the January transfer window, and that was for shot-stopper Craig McGillivray, who moved away from the club on a permanent deal to Burton Albion. And you're going to hear them again at some point in this video, maybe a couple more times, which, yeah, it's just absolutely laughable. But McGillivray, again, like the Forster-Takaski deal, I think it's a deal that needed to happen. I think McGillivray, I still hold the impression he wasn't as bad as people made him out to be, which may be controversial. But some people really thought that McGillivray was shocking last season, which I don't think was the case. Then again, I don't think he was absolutely brilliant. Certainly wasn't the shot stopper that Portsmouth had and the player that we thought that we signed. He obviously had this debacle at the start of the season where we brought in Joe Wollacott. The fact that he wasn't happy with the fact that there was competition and that his spot was under threat. But I think McGillivray needed that. You know, he didn't have that competition last year. We had Stephen Henderson and Nathan Harness, and Henderson was a has-been and Harness wasn't ready. So McGillivray was not tested or, you know, threatened by his position in the squad last season. And the fact that Wollacott's come in and has rattled him already, and, you know, he's liking tweets saying that he wants to leave the club or he's probably going to want to leave, just tells me all I really need to know, really. And to be fair, this season, I think he was fairly shaky in the games that he did play. He was unlucky not to keep a clean sheet against Lincoln. We'll say that in January. But yeah, entirely the right decision to move him on. And he's gone to Burton Albion, where I think he should really be getting into their squad. And hopefully he can help them out in their relegation battle this year. But yeah, like I say, entirely the right decision. And it's just a shame that it didn't really live up to the hype that he had when he joined us. Obviously, he was fantastic at Portsmouth, but it didn't work out here. Signing number 3, as I say, was a very welcome signing, as it was a position that we badly needed, as we did complete the signing of Ipswich Town left-back Matt Penny on loan until the end of the season. Now, obviously, Penny had been out on loan in the first half of the season up in the Scottish Premiership with Motherwell, where Motherwell fans have said a lot of good things about him. They said he did really well when they were gutted to see Penny leave and be recalled and obviously sent to us. Now, Penny has struggled for game time in the English game. You know, he is currently Ipswich's third choice left back, I do believe, and he had a previous spell at Sheffield Wednesday where I have heard mixed successes when it comes to his form there. So ultimately with this one, we did need a left back quite badly. You know, we didn't have one, but it made a lot of sense to bring in a actual left back that can compete and offer a bit of competition in the side. Obviously, with Sessegnon currently struggling with a little niggle to his knee, and we've gone with Matt Penny. Now, Penny, obviously 24 years of age, still got age on his side, and he is out of contract with Ipswich in the summer, so he is potentially an option to explore in the future if he does play well for us. And obviously, I did see him play on his debut against Bolton on Saturday. And I'll be honest with you, I said it in the video, he didn't exactly put in a performance that was enough to write home about, if you know what I mean. It wasn't exactly the greatest display in the world. It wasn't terrible by any means. He got stuck in and we was making a couple tackles, but he wasn't exactly brilliant. And hopefully he can pick up that performance and he can, you know, put in some more solid performances, because like I say, I do like the fact that we've got another option in the left-back department, and obviously a natural left-back. I do like that. So I do kind of like the Penny signing, but of course the short-term deal and the fact him coming in on loan. But then again, you expect that with the Sandgard signing. So yeah, hopefully Penny can put in some decent performances. And then following Penny's signing, a couple of days later, I do believe, we did confirm our third departure, and it is a temporary departure, this one, as we did confirm the departure of midfielder Conor McGrandles, who has signed for League One strugglers Cambridge United on loan until the end of the season. Now, it's the same with McGillivray, really, and a number of other players that we're going to talk about in this video that have left the club. This is one that hasn't worked out at all. McGrandles has had a freak start to his Charlton career. He has struggled quite badly with injuries. You know, he's had, he had a concussion, a broken hand he suffered shortly after that, and then he's been struggling with a calf injury. You can obviously make that argument, you know, he's been really unlucky with injuries, but then again, in the games that he has played this season, in the chances that he has been given, he hasn't lived up to the bill. You know, he has not put in the performances that are expected of a Charlton player, really, and are to standard. So, you know, I think it was the right decision again to loan him out and get some game time at Cambridge, which I think he should get, you know, because there is no doubt in my mind that he is a solid League One midfielder. You know, we saw that from his time at Lincoln. You know, he was a big part of their team that made the playoff final a couple of years back when they lost to Blackpool. He was a very important player for them, and I think that hopefully a loan spell away to Cambridge, who are obviously, as I say, struggling with a relegation battle at the moment. Hopefully he can help them out, and I think he will offer something to their midfield, because like I say, I do think there's a good player there, and hopefully he can come back to us a better player. But obviously Holden said we're going to reassess in the summer, so there could maybe hint to a permanent departure there, but I'm not entirely sure what's going on. I'm reading too much into what is clearly not there. But the reality is McGrandles has gone out on loan, and I do wish him all the best. Hopefully he can get some game time there and he can come back a better player. Just before deadline day, we did confirm another departure, and it was our third permanent exit of the window, and one that, I'll be honest, I didn't actually expect. I didn't expect to happen because there were a number of reports that said that this wouldn't happen due to wage demands and things like that. And I think in general, I just didn't expect us to get rid of him. It's Jayden Stockley. Jayden Stockley departed the club, I think, a couple of days before the deadline, and he signed for Fleetwood Town for an undisclosed fee on a 2.5-year contract, I do believe. Yeah, one I didn't expect, but one I'm not exactly bothered by, judging by his performances this season. But what I will say about Stockley, and I think that this is only right and only fair to say this, I really hope that Charlton fans don't judge his career at this club purely off this season, because we know full well that this season has not worked out. It has not worked out for Stockley whatsoever. He's been nowhere near good enough. Absolutely terrible, and we have given him chances. You know, we have been giving him some service. We've been crossing balls into the box for him, and he hasn't finished his dinner. Overall, Stockley has been a decent striker for us, and we've seen that in the previous seasons leading up to this one. You know, when he came in on loan from Preston in 2020-21, our attack that season, we had Chuck Sanike, and that was it. He was the only competent striker we had that year. We had bloody Paul Smith, Omar Bogle and Ronnie Schwartz. Stockley's come in levels above all three of them and scored 8 goals in a team that was, let's face it, very underwhelming and thrown together when Sandgard took the club over and we just signed any free agent that we possibly could. Stockley came in and really made an impact. You know, a dominant striker in the air, a big target man, a nuisance in the air, basically won everything. And then last season, again, while our team was pretty shocking last year and an absolutely terrible season, finishing 13th, Stockley bagged 20 goals. He got a 20-goal season. Yes, obviously not all of them were in League One, but 13 of them were. And he was our top goal scorer for a reason. You know, he can bag goals at this level. For whatever reason this season, it hasn't worked. But like I say, I think it is only right for me to say that Stockley has been a decent signing for Charlton overall. Yes, this season hasn't worked. I'd admit that. He's been terrible. However, I have enjoyed seeing Stockley play in a Charlton shirt. All I can do is wish Stockley the best of luck in his future career. It didn't work out. I know he said, obviously, I think it was actually this time last year, he said he wanted to finish his career here. It just shows football's a funny game. I think it was entirely the right decision to move him on. We've got a substantial undisclosed fee from Fleetwood for it. God knows what that is. I'd imagine we've made a profit on him, but not that it really matters because we're not going to see a penny of that as it goes towards Sandgard's project of breaking even, which is still incredibly unrealistic. But yeah, I wish Stockley all the best in the future at Fleetwood. Hopefully he can reignite his form and he can score goals for them. And I think that he will. I think he will. If Fleetwood can, give him the service and they can put balls into the box, he's going to finish them. And hopefully he can do that, except for when he plays us, obviously, in a couple of weeks' time. But like I say, it's absolutely written that he's going to score against us. It has started to get a little bit dark outside at the time of me recording, hence why the lighting has changed. And it is rather fitting, to be fair, as it kind of symbolises the doom and gloom of last night, as we do now have to attempt to review what the hell happened yesterday, of course, on transfer deadline day. Now, there were a lot of things going into this day. Obviously, the final day for us to keep hold of our best players. From what I've heard, there was interest in Corey Blackett-Taylor from Wigan Athletic. Obviously, that didn't work for whatever reason. Jezeren Raksaki, obviously, will be staying with us for the remainder of the season. Crystal Palace opted to not recall him. Obviously, Patrick Vieira did say a couple of weeks back that if Raksaki was getting games at Charlton, there was no point in sending him out elsewhere, where there's a potential risk that he won't get games if we do move him away. So if he's getting games at Charlton, which of course he is, he's a regular starter for us, then there's no point sending him elsewhere. So it's very nice to see that. Keeping hold of our younger players, Miles Lieber and Lucas Ness being the main two. The fact that they've stayed again is massive. And obviously Jules Dobson as well. I've heard rumblings that there was apparently interest in him as well. But we've been able to keep him. And yeah, for the most part, we were able to keep hold of our key players. But I think the main thing for me was it was going to be interesting to see who we was going to bring in, because we desperately needed options in areas, and who was going to leave, because again, it was fairly clear that we were going to do business and a number of players were going to leave the club. Now, one of the areas that I felt we needed to strengthen, or two of the areas, should I say, sorry, that we needed to strengthen on deadline day or in the window in general, was midfield and centre-back. Now, the reason I say midfield is because obviously with Forster-Caskey and McGrandles going, we looked quite light in that area, and we could have done with another option there. Obviously, we've got Dobson, Fraser, Morgan, and then we've got Jack Payne, and we've got Aaron Henry. So I felt that that wasn't enough, and we did need to sign another player. And of course, we did go ahead and get that, as we did complete the signing of Bournemouth central midfielder Gavin Kilkenny, the 22-year-old, or 23-year-old, should I say, because it is actually his birthday at the time of recording this video. The 23-year-old joins the club on loan from Bournemouth until the end of the season. Another Irish central midfielder, so another one to add to the likes of Mark Kinsella, Josh Cullen, not comparing him to those two, obviously. But nevertheless, another midfield option, which I was very happy with. Now, with Kilkenny, it solely boils down to the one thing that has plagued us in this transfer window specifically when it comes to assigning Premier League midfielders, because you know what I'm going to say, whether he's actually going to play. Because over the last couple of seasons, we have loaned in midfielders from the Premier League that haven't played. 2019-20, it was Matt Smith from Man City, didn't play. 2020-21, Matt Smith from Arsenal, robbed him from Swindon, where he was getting regular minutes and playing really well. Come to Charlton, doesn't play. Last season, Niall John didn't play a single minute of football after signing from Tottenham. And now we've got Kilkenny. The concern I have with this signing is that Kilkenny has not played much football this season. He's played 4 times while at a previous loan spell with Stoke City. Obviously, he was loaned to Stoke for the season initially, but obviously due to his lack of game time at the Potters, they've decided to loan, Bournemouth have decided to cancel his loan and send him to us. That's my main concern, the fact that he wasn't getting games at Stoke City and he's not played many minutes or any decent amount of football at all this season. Now, from what I've heard from Bournemouth fans, they have been saying a lot of good things about him. I've heard very, very good things from Bournemouth fans. He played, I think, 14 or 15 times in the Championship for them last season, and most of them were starts of those games that he did play. So the fact that he was starting in a team that ultimately got promoted to the Premier League last season, it does say something. You know, Bournemouth fans have said that if you play him, he's going to absolutely tear League One to shreds. Now, like I say, that's the main concern with me for this one. If Kilkenny is actually going to get games here, and if he does, and he puts in performances, then fair enough. But I'm not getting ahead of myself with this one, because while Bournemouth have said, yeah, he's great, he's a fantastic player, we don't know that. We don't know that because we've not seen him play. And if you look at the statistics, the fact that he's not played for Stoke this season, or at all, he's only played 4 times. I don't think any of them were starts. It raises concerns. After the Kilkenny signing, there was a lot of rumblings in regards to departures. A lot. Well, I say a lot. Initially, it was a couple. And we knew the identity, I think, of 2 of them. One looked very likely to go through. But then as the day just progressed and as it got into the night and the final hours, it was hard to comprehend what we were doing. Like, I was literally just sat there like, what are we doing? Like, it literally was just a case of us trying to just sell everyone, you know. But I guess we'll just go through it one by one. So starting off with the first departure, the one that we knew was going to happen, Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk has departed the club for the second time in his Charlton career in 2 seasons, both in the January transfer window on loan. Last season he went out on loan to Blackpool, and this season he has gone on loan to Burton Albion. Told you we're going to hear from them again. He's gone there to the end of the season. Now, there's certainly the divide when it comes to Charlie Kirk. Some people like him, some people don't. Personally, I'm really not that bothered with the fact he's gone on loan. Like, I am one of the ones that don't rate him, to be honest with you. I think when it comes to Kirk, he is the one player that we thought was going to work out, and it just hasn't. Granted, he's been better this season than the previous year. It doesn't take a genius for you to know that. And he was probably statistically better than the option that we were going to bring in, which we will talk about later. But I just don't... I just don't think we've seen enough. I don't think we've seen enough. I don't think we've seen the player that we thought we signed from Crewe. And it just boils down to another signing from the recruitment team that hasn't worked out. And he's now gone to a Burton side that, fittingly, he scored 2 goals against last season. And hopefully he can get regular minutes there, which I imagine that he will. And hopefully he can help them out in their relegation battle. But yeah, like I say, much better than last season statistically. But again, in terms of performance, not seen enough. Been fairly average, to be honest with you. Nowhere near the calibre of a £500,000 player. What I will say, the constant change of manager hasn't helped, because Kirk has been under 4 different Charlton managers, and it's been stop and start for him, you know. Got into the team under Adkins on occasion, loaned out under Johnny Jackson, in the side under Ben Garner, loaned out under Dean Holden. It's obviously not good for him. You know, that has played a factor to it, in my opinion. But yeah, not fussed with him going out on loan, to be honest with you. And obviously we'll reassess in the summer. And I think we do need to reassess. We need to seriously think about what we're doing with Kirk, because if he's just not going to get in the squad and he's not going to put in the performances that, let's face it, he hasn't done at his time at Charlton. Like I say, he's been better this season than the last. But we do seriously need to reassess. But like I say, wish Kirk all the best. Hopefully he kills it at Burton. Hopefully he can help them stay up this year. And yeah, hopefully he comes back to us a better player. Now, after Kirk, obviously that was the one we knew was going. All hell broke loose. Absolutely all hell broke loose in regards to departures. Like, I may as well speak about all of the departures in one full swoop, really. But I will begin with the signing that we made. Centre-back was going to leave the club in the January window. Now, I sat there and thought, naturally, okay, that's Terrell Thomas, because he was the one that had been linked away with the club the most, and potentially Sam Lavelle could move on as well. But, of course, it wasn't those two that got reported. And the likeliness of that signing going through was made apparent through our 5th and final transfer of the transfer window, as we did complete the signing of free agent centre-back Michael Hector, the Jamaican international 30-year-old Premier League experienced and Championship experienced defender, joining the club on a short-term deal, a deal until the end of the season. Now, as I say, that signing was our final signing of the transfer window. And look, I'm just going to cut straight to the chase, and I'm going to be very brutally honest. I've seen a lot of people say that this is a fantastic signing. Personally, we've made this mistake before. What people need to understand, Hector is a free agent, and he has not played a game of football since the end of last season when he got released from Fulham. I am all for him putting in performances and proving me wrong. I'm all for that, and I really hope he does that. But I don't think this is as good as a signing as people think it is, simply because he hasn't played. Like, we are replacing practically our entire defence with a player that hasn't played since the summer. Granted, fantastic player. On paper, should not be playing in League One. He's got Premier League and Championship experience. Should be playing Championship football minimum. I know that. I'm not stupid. But we've made this mistake before. Signing players that on paper should be nowhere near this level. Yet they've not played football. And it just absolutely baffles me when we sell the players that we have done and let go of the players that we have done, and this is our replacement. And I may as well just tell you now, because I've hinted at it so many times. Which players left on deadline day in the final hours? I'll name all 4 of them now. The first of which, and the one that I'm completely fuming with and absolutely outraged by, is Owen O'Connell. The Rochdale centre-back that we signed in the summer, gone after 6 months. He has completed his move to Hollywood FC, Wrexham, in non-league for a pretty decent profit, I would imagine, because considering Wrexham have got the money to spend, and Owen O'Connell will certainly be reaping a very decent financial reward. Completely the wrong centre-back to let go, in my opinion. I don't know what the hell we're thinking. Everyone else that's gone, I don't care. It's Deadwood. It is Deadwood. And I will say that. I'm glad that we have got rid of the Deadwood this transfer window. Getting rid of O'Connell is outrageous. It is so bizarre. Like, look, I can understand the move, because obviously, like I just said, Wrexham, they will pay the money with the sweet Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney, Deadpool, Welcome to Wrexham documentary money. And he's going to reap a very good financial reward. But it's just that, like, the club's statement saying that, oh yeah, he's going to get the game time that he wants and he craves. How was this man not starting over Ryan Innes? How? O'Connell, of the 4 centre-backs that we had going into deadline day, he's the best one by a mile. By a country mile. And he will, there's not a shadow of a doubt in my mind, O'Connell will be the best centre-back in the National League by a country mile. No question about it. And the thing that winds me up more than anything is the fact that, yes, we've made a profit, fantastic. But that's money that we are not going to see back, and we haven't seen back. And his replacement is Michael Hector, a 30-year-old centre-back who has not played since the summer. It makes no sense. It is so bizarre, and I cannot wrap my head around it. What I can't wrap my head around even more is the other players that have let go. I mentioned Sam Lavelle. He was the next one to go. He has completed his move, rather fittingly, to Burton Albion to join his best mate and golfing buddy Charlie Kirk on loan at the end of the season. Terrell Thomas was supposed to leave the club. He was in advanced stages in a move to Forest Green, but the deal collapsed as, and I quote Richard Cawley, we were left lacking in centre-backs. And the final player to leave the club on transfer deadline day was Dialang Jaisimi. The wide man has completed a move to AFC Wimbledon, linking up with former Charlton boss Johnny Jackson on loan at the end of the season. And another thing to add on to it, we were supposed to complete a 6th and final signing of the transfer window, which ended up collapsing. Of course, I refer to Wigan Athletics' Gwyn Edwards, which makes sense as to why Wigan were interested in Corey Blackett-Taylor. And that I can't even compute either. If we'd have signed Gwyn Edwards and given them Blackett-Taylor, what the hell were we thinking in doing that? And I shouldn't be that wound up by the fact that we didn't get Gwyn Edwards, because ultimately I felt it would have been a very underwhelming signing. I mean, the guy's played 26 minutes of football this season. He's 29 years old, and in 30 games in last season's title-winning season with Wigan, 3 goal contributions, 1 goal, 2 assists. That is nowhere near enough. Certainly not the player that I want playing here, especially if we were thinking about getting rid of Blackett-Taylor in his place. Joke. But the departures will tie into each other for me. Like, I don't understand why we've let Lavelle go over Terrell Thomas. Much rather we let Thomas go, because the guy's offered nothing. He's done exactly how I expected him to do since coming to this club. Play no games. How many games has he played this season? What, 3? If that? Like, at least Lavelle's had patches this season. Like, I felt he was decent last year. Really inconsistent this year. You know, he was really shocking at the start of the season and then didn't put in the performances that were required, really, and had a bit of an improvement going into January. But yeah, I can't say I'm that bothered letting him go. But then again, I would rather keep him over Thomas. And then with Jaisimi, again, not that bothered. Like, the guy has offered absolutely nothing since coming to this club. Probably the most average winger I've ever seen play for Charlton. And we've kept saying over the last few years, or maybe this is Jaisimi's year. It's never been his year. You know, I wish him all the best. Hopefully he does go down to League 2, because it sounds horrible, but I do think that is his level. But hopefully he can get goals under Jackson and he can have a decent second half of the season. Obviously, we'll reassess in the summer. Same goes for Lavelle. You know, hopefully he can do well at Burton. Burton signing 3 of our players this transfer window. They've got Deji Oshilada as well. You know, they love a Charlton player, don't they? Look, Holden wanted to thin this squad up, and he has done that. He's got rid of players that were just high earners. They were just on the wage bill, not getting games, not performing well. And for the most part, we got rid of that. And I will say fair play to that. In terms of the signings, they are underwhelming. They are. Like that's the honest truth. But I didn't expect anything else. There was no way that Sandgaard was going to sign long-term players when he's currently discussing a takeover. That's obviously worth a separate video. I won't go into too much detail because I'll be honest, I don't know too much about it. I don't think anyone does. But I fully expected it. I fully expected it. And I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. You know, like it's just what Andy Scott said when he joined the club. You know, he said, "Oh, I wouldn't have come here if there wasn't a budget." 2 short-term players coming in on until the end of the season and 3 loans later. It doesn't make sense. It's just so underwhelming and bizarre. And I'm now just left thinking, are we any better than where we were? Even after getting rid of all the deadwood. Like, yeah, we got rid of the deadwood, but that's our squad depth. And what's that down to? That's down to our recruitment. I saw a stat that made me laugh, you know. Like, it honestly made me just absolutely bawl out laughing. Owen O'Connell is the 12th player to leave Charlton on a permanent basis that was signed under Sandgaard. Bearing in mind, we let 4 go on loan as well during this period in McGrandles, Kirk, Lavelle and Jaisimi. If these players that are being brought in, fairly recently as well, are being deemed not good enough, says a lot about the recruitment. I think a lot of questions really need to be asked now about Steve Gallen, Martin Sandgaard, a lot of them. Questions need to be asked, and probably not just questions, probably P45s and sacking orders. But we're just now left with a completely thin-boned squad that is very light in areas and lacks quality. The centre-back department. Terrell Thomas, why is he still here? Ryan Innes is a liability. Is Michael Hector going to be the player that several Charlton fans think he's going to be? Like I say, more than happy for him to prove me wrong, and I hope that he does. But I'm not convinced. And there is a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Lucas Ness now, who, while he has been impressive since coming into the side, that's a lot of pressure and a lot to ask for him for a young player. The same applies for out wide. Blackett, Taylor, Raksaki and Campbell are our only wingers. Yes, we can play Jack Payne there, but I don't want us to rely on that. We shouldn't be relying on that. Players that are not natural to that position, because Payne ain't a winger, he's a midfielder, central midfielder. Blackett, Taylor and Raksaki, you know, deserve to be in the starting 11. They've shown their quality this season, but they also have weaknesses, and we need that cover. And we have to be honest, just Tyrese Campbell as his cover, is that enough? I struggle to see that it is. You know, Campbell, he has been impressive, but is he enough? That's the question. You can say the same thing about the striker department. You know, we've got Miles Lieburn, a lot of pressure on his shoulders as a young player. Macaulay Bonne, who, while he is a better option than Jaden Stockley and Chukwuemeka, again, coming in on a short-term contract, is he going to score goals? That's up to him. And then Chukwuemeka, are we actually going to see him be involved this season? He needs a resurrection like Christ himself. Seriously. I really hope Holden knows what he's doing. I really do. Because ultimately, if I'm giving this transfer window a mark out of 10, if I'm being absolutely generous, probably 5.5. Probably not even that. Like I say, that's me being kind to it. Because ultimately, it's been another underwhelming window. But as I've said multiple times in this video, to be expected. Ultimately, the only thing we can do now is back the players and back Holden, which I'm going to do. Of course I am. Not exactly convinced by the signings, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to back them. Because I'm there to be proven wrong by the likes of Kilkenny, Hector, Penny, Bonne, Kane. You know, I'm there to be proven wrong by them, and hopefully they do. But like I say, we got rid of the deadwood. That's the positive. But we've replaced them with underwhelming signings. Our squad is very thin-boned in a number of areas and lacking quality. And I'm left thinking that we're no better than where we started. But that's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. That is it for my review of the January transfer window 2022-23 Charlton Athletics January transfer window. Let me know in the comments below what you think about our transfer window. It's going to be very interesting to hear your thoughts. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, can you possibly leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, turn on those post notifications so you're notified of every time I upload a new video. We are edging closer and closer to 4,000 subscribers, guys. If we can get to that soon, that'd be absolutely incredible. Another chaotic, hectic, And another episode of the soap opera and the circus that is Charlton Athletic continues. Let's see what Dean Oldham can do with this very thin and lacking quality squad. This has been Tyler Rolinson. Have a nice day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy, stay safe, and I'll see you all then.